We finally find out what's happening with the Straw Hats on Elbaf. Luffy goes Gear 5, and most shockingly, the Sun God of Elbaf appears to fight Luffy, so make sure to stay tuned for this crazy chapter. Chill parking within and smash that like button if you enjoy these One Piece reviews like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you joined the Nakama if you haven't by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece reviews and updates. And now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Harry Potter fans will be glad to see the cover story where our Straw Hat crew members are dressed as wizards riding broomsticks in the sky together with a massive dragon. The chapter itself starts in Big Stein Castle where Sanji carrying Nami jumps down the castle with the others. They arrive to the land below and we see that the entire kingdom is made of Lego pieces with the huge Yggdrasil tree in the middle. We thankfully will find out the nature of this Lego town in this chapter and if all of Elbaf looks this way too. Zoro explains that he woke up on the other side of town and following the noise he found Luffy defeating the giant rabbit ear god. Luffy says, well, we were all thinking that Usopp should have been able to defeat that pet cat / lion on his own, but Usopp replies he was in a panic since he woke up while being eaten by a cat. So at the beginning of this arc, it's being set up that Usopp has some work to do to become the brave warrior of the sea that he yearns to be. Hopefully this arc will end in a more flattering way than it started for Usopp. Usopp says this kingdom is not Elbaf since their giant warrior outfits are normal size. So they go to the giant town to ask people what's happening. Interestingly enough, they encounter a normal-sized bearded man, but he's also wearing a giant outfit and riding a giant grasshopper. What a crazy and funny scenario. Gotta hand it to Oda, he's really having fun with this arc. The bearded guy says, oh, you guys are new here, right? This is the land of the gods. He then goes on to explain that this country is ruled by gods like the ear god, the spike god, aka the hedgehog we saw last chapter, and Isakat, the cat that rules the castle. He remarks that recently there's been an incident of Ear God being burned to death outside the town. Luffy just eating the gods of the land. And Luffy even starts replying, "Ah, my bad, that," but Usopp covers his mouth before Luffy says too much. Zoro, Sanji, and Nami hilariously whistle and look around, trying to hide the fact that they killed the Ear God. Interestingly enough, the man says they can come get some rations in town, but they can't go to the other side of the castle. I'm curious to learn more about these rations, but Luffy focuses on why he can't go to the other side. The bearded guy says it's the Sun God's temple and it's guarded by ferocious guardians. No one has ever approached the temple and returned to tell the tale. Of course, that's a perfect thing to say to entice Luffy. Nami even says, wait, don't phrase it like that or he will ... Luffy for his part is very curious, saying, His face changes to a funny facial expression and he runs straight for the Sun God's temple. Zoro got interested too when he heard that there are strong guardian beasts and runs after Luffy. I love how Sanji then scolds Zoro for always going with Luffy's flow. But yeah, the two make a great team, Luffy and Zoro. We then get a kind of Truman Show situation where Luffy reaches the end of this fake town. As he's wondering why the road seems so long and the entire kingdom looks so wide, he suddenly hits something invisible and it breaks. It's revealed that it was a giant mirror and the sky and wide scenery are just mere reflections. The people in Lego Town are shocked to see the sky crack above them. And yeah, that must look like the sky is falling above them. Crazy time for them, not that living with giant animal gods is not crazy, but still. Luffy crosses the mirror and falls to the floor. After it's broken, it's revealed that the entire Lego kingdom is a model diorama place in the giant's room. The diorama is inside of a huge cage covered with glass. From the inside, the glasses are mirrors, but from the outside, it's like a fish tank. So one can see the inside when looking from the outside. The cage does take up a large part of the room from top to bottom, and the front of the cage has a huge grill with a door and it's the size for a giant. There's some furniture in the room like a giant wood table, and on top of the table there are fabrics, threads, and a giant sewing machine. Clearly this is where all those tiny by comparison cosplay outfits were made. We also see Lego pieces dispersed on the floor of the room where Luffy fell. The Straw Hats are understandably shocked. What's going on? Nami asks. And Sanji says, if there are giants living on this side, it would be as if we are some pets being given an elaborate cage. And yeah, that seems to be exactly it. These humans in here are pretty much treated as goldfish or ants in a farm by the giant. Nami says it can't be. And then a mysterious person who won't be mysterious for long says, "Hey, what was that noise? Are you on my side? Help me." Nami says, "Eh?" And then it's revealed that the mysterious voice is Chopper. He is being held captive outside of the cage in the giant wood table. Zoro releases him and he hugs Nami while crying. So for everyone asking last chapter about where Chopper is since he was with them, Oda has answered that question here. Chopper for his part cries and then gladly says, "Everyone, I'm so glad you guys found me." Nami says lovingly, "Chopper, you poor thing, it's alright now." Chopper mentions that his collar was so hard that he couldn't get it off. He really thought this was the end for him. Nami suddenly says, "Now you owe me one." And he says, "Huh?" Usopp chimes in saying, "Nami, you were crying yourself not so long ago." But that's classic Nami taking the credit for the rest of the crew. Usopp and Zoro proceed to examine all the stuff in the table, while Luffy examines the floor. Zoro comments that it's a room built for giants, but with human-sized clothing. I suppose it's like changing clothes for dolls, huh? And that's true, the giant is pretty much treating humans as dolls who happen to be living. Usopp then says that it makes him wonder if that sun god is a really delicate person. Luffy comments that the room is full of blocks, and Sanji adds, "Yeah, this land is full of them. The reason the smell was so unbearable when we roasted the rabbit was due to all the synthetic resin burning with it." The Straw Hats look around and Sanji assumes the giant room is the sun god's temple. Zoro says that people in costume that live in the diorama town are like pets for the sun god to observe via glass. Not the first time such a sentiment has been raised in this chapter, but still very true. As Luffy seems to liberate people everywhere he goes, I wonder if he'll liberate all these so-called human pets from the Truman Show world. I assume it's not a place they choose to stay willingly with all the dangerous giant animals around, and even the fact that they gotta stick to rations, which is usually associated with wartime where there isn't a lot of food to go around. Suddenly, two new giant animals appear in the giant room. Helungander, a giant snake with its name based on the world serpent in Norse mythology, and Mugen, a giant raven with a skull on its head. Its name is a mix of Munin and Hugin, Odin's ravens in Norse mythology. Love to see so much mythology making it into the story, even if it is, admittedly, in an unexpected way. Luffy and the others fight against the animals, wrecking stuff in the room and making it catch on fire. We cut to outside of the room and we see that the sun god is walking down a corridor towards the room. The room has a Z symbol on it. The sun god is a giant far larger than any normal giant we've seen so far, we're told, except for oars. But we can't see yet if it's a man or a woman. The sun god is a slim giant that wears a black long tunic and a deer skull with big antlers and mane that covers his or her face. The sun god has a staff and a shield with a sun symbol. The sun god notices that smoke and noise are coming from the room, and so they enter the room. Sun god is shocked to see Luffy destroying the room while fighting the animals. Luffy, as promised, is in Gear 5 and laughing in the middle of the fire that is burning the room. Then he uses Gomu Gomu no Dan pistol to defeat the giant snake. Meanwhile, Zoro defeats the crow. When you think about it, this giant will come back to like all of his animal pets being beaten up. The Straw Hat crew then enters into the diorama town again to evade the sun god, and they encounter Iskat, the giant cat. Iskat is very angry, but they hit it on the head, hurting it again, and get on it while Nami shows them a map she found. Chopper tells us that the cat says, "I will remember this." Nami says, "Okay, but more importantly, look. We didn't get what we were looking for, but we did find the blueprint of this land of blocks." Sanji says, in other words, a map. And Zoro says he's coming. In an amazing double-page spread, we see that the Straw Hat crew is riding the giant cat through the diorama town, and the sun god is chasing after them. Town people are understandably shocked to see their sun god enraged like this. It's definitely a weird day for these diorama town people, to be sure. Sun god says, "How dare you," while Nami says, "Guys, get ready. If we run in a straight line, there's another mirror ahead. If we destroy it along with the wall, we will be outside." Luffy says, "Yes, let's get out of here." The townspeople say, "What?" The sun god is furious. The sun god says, "You won't get away." Now what I'm hoping for is to see Luffy actually fight this other sun god, who I'm sure is not any real sun god, but just came up with that name because it's also part of Elbaf mythology, and that's where a lot of the other names come from as well. Nevertheless, a sun god versus sun god clash would be epic to see, and the sheer size of this giant would make it interesting too. Let me know your thoughts on this chapter and if you expect to see a fight here or just an escape. If you did enjoy this one, then you don't want to miss my recent video on all of the most anticipated Final Saga fights that Oda has already foreshadowed. Link on screen right now for that. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.